Monahan parked in front. Docks to Caulfield. Fires. Scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0. What's going on, gang? My name is Devin. Welcome to Habs After Dark. This is Recliner Sports, and we're here to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. We're here to talk about a 2-1 loss to the Dallas Stars. Probably not anything to really get upset about. I think it was a really good game by the Canadiens tonight. They were playing a very good team who is hot. The Dallas Stars, one of the better teams in the NHL. And they were on a 6-game winning streak. So stand by, guys. Give me one more second here. Go get Mama. Go find Mama. Come on. Go on up. Go on up. Go get Mama. Go get Mama. Come on. Sorry about that, gang. Just had to deal with the dog situation there. I apologize. That was bad timing by her, for sure. Anyways, nothing to be really upset about, I don't think, tonight for the Canadiens. It's a 2-1 loss to a very good team. They've won a number of games recently, and you can't win them all. They're not going to win everything, and I thought they played a pretty solid game tonight. As Billy D says, it was a nail-biter. Tony says, so effing ass offensively tonight, no cohesion whatsoever. I think that's an absolutely horrible take. I don't think that Tony, I don't think you were watching the game, Tony. I don't think you really figured it out. But again, I think it's a take that demonstrates that you might not quite understand exactly what's going on with the team and that you didn't really pay attention that closely to the game. But Mike says, great game, not mad over loss. Monty played unbelievable tonight. Like to see that when Dobesh plays well, so does Monty. Yes, I think both goalies are playing really well right now, Mike. I agree with you completely. Again, I think the Canadiens are in a really good place as far as their goalies are concerned. And, they're both playing really well right now. And that's kind of where you want to be with your goalies. And you want to have an internal battle there between the two of them. And you want to know and feel comfortable that either one of them can go on the ice and give you a really good performance and give you a chance to win on every given night. So Greg's Music Corner, the guys dug deep. They were a bit sloppy, probably because of fatigue, but I'm happy with the results. I can take that. I can take that comment. I agree with that, Greg. Again, sloppy, and you're facing a really good team, right? You're going to look sloppy at times. Like, you're not going to look. This is a team that a month and a half ago couldn't get out of their own way, and now they're playing against some of the best teams in the league, and they're hanging with them, right? And so. It's going. You're not going to dominate everybody every night. So sometimes, it might look a little bit sloppy. And you're right. Fatigue. Another back-to-back with travel, overtime last night, overtime tonight. Apparently they got home, quite early in the morning today, and had to go back to the rink this afternoon. So again, you're right. This was a very good performance under all of the circumstances. And Billy says nothing to be ashamed of. Monty isn't ready to give up the number one. Think that Dobesh playing well will push Monty to play well, and Monty was incredible tonight. I don't think that Montembeault is anywhere close. I don't even think they're even considering the possibility of him not being the number one goalie. I think that if Dobesh continues to play well, I think he'll get more opportunities to start. I think it'll be more, of a situation where he's playing 1 out of every 3 or 4 games, as opposed to 1 out of every 6 or 7. That was the situation when Caden Primo was the goalie. But again, I don't think that there's any real controversy here as to who the number one goalie is. I don't even think it's something that the team is even thinking about right now. Nicolas, for a team that arrived this morning today from Washington, I'm impressed by the energy and the intensity. Moi aussi, Nicolas. Je pense qu'ils ont très bien joué dans les circonstances. C'était une équipe qui était fatiguée, qui devrait être fatiguée, mais ils ont très bien joué contre une des meilleures équipes de la LNH. Pour moi, il n'y a rien d'avoir craint, rien d'avoir, il n'y a rien d'être embarrassé. Ils ont très bien joué ce soir pour moi. So here's my takeaway from the game, guys. Again, 2-1 final and shootout. The Dallas Stars They win in the shootout. We'll get to the scoreboard in a second. It probably won't take that long. If you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. It's really easy to do. There's a button down here below that says subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell and the thumbs up if you like. We're trying to get to 50 thumbs up. That's always our goal. We came up a little bit short last night. I think we ended up in the 30s somewhere. The game before that, we reached 60, no problem. There's 16 people in the room right now. So if you could just tap that subscribe button, notification bell, thumbs up. If you're watching in a replay, if you're not watching live with us, welcome as well. And it's great that you join up. I know that everybody can't make it at night to see the games at this time of day, but if you are watching in a replay, a thumbs up would be great. A subscription, if you want to subscribe, that would be great. If you do enjoy the content, we are trying to grow our network here. We're trying to grow our family. We're trying to grow, we're trying to create a place where people can come and watch, watch hockey, talk about hockey, and, do so in a safe, civil, intelligent way. Try and get away from some of the other bullshit that's going on the internet as far as, having to deal with trolls and some of the toxic stuff that goes on with hockey fans on the internet. So we're trying to create a place for that, and if you want to be part of that, then welcome. We're pretty new here, but we're trying to get her going. So what's going on, EnterTap? Another solid effort, I agree. Thank you, Real Deal Prime, RDP. Thank you for smashing that button. Again, we're trying to get as many of the thumbs up as we can. We're trying to get as many subscribers as we can. I think we're around 250 subscribers. Montreal's plan was to hit Dallas with every chance they got. Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. Yeah, I think that's probably an accurate statement. So my big takeaway for tonight, and again, I think our takeaways in recent weeks have sort of focused on winning habits. And this team is developing winning habits. We've heard the coaching staff talk about it. We've heard the players talking about it. Right? They're being taught winning habits, and as they learn these winning habits, and as they develop them, as they implement them into their games, they'll become a better hockey team. And so what we've been focusing on, or what I've been focusing on in my takeaways from some of these games, is winning habits. And one of the big things that we hear, and again, I'm not, I've been talking about it for weeks, and Marty St. Louis just started, bringing it up at his press conference. One of his new talking points is you play the game that's put in front of you. So whether you're playing, the last place team in the league or the first place team in the league, you've got to play the game that's presented to you. If you're playing a team that's really, really strong defensively, you've got to play that game. If you're faced with a team that's really, really strong offensively and has a lot of offensive skill and a lot of scoring, then that game is the game you have to play. So tonight, the game that was put in front of them was, they're playing a top team in the NHL. On a 6-game winning streak. They've got really good offense, and they're just a solid team from top to bottom. This was going to be a difficult night for the Canadiens. Again, we've talked about travel. We've talked about back-to-back games. We talked about overtime, three overtime games in recent days. So this is a team that, was presented with a tough scenario, with a tough situation tonight. And, but you have to play the game that's put in front of you. As Martin St. Louis likes to say, once you're on the ice, nobody cares. Like, there's no excuses once you're on the ice. You got to go out and play the game. And so tonight, what I really took away from it as a winning habit was what I call weathering the storm. So they get out on the ice, and early on, it's quite clear that Dallas is ready to go. Right? They're fully prepared to have a good game. They've come with all of their guns blazing. They're going to give Montreal a hard time. There's going to be no sympathy. There's going to be no mercy given for the fact that the Canadiens are on the back, second of a back-to-back, that that they got home late. There's going to be no mercy. Dallas is bringing it to them right off the opening face-off, and so it's how do you deal with that, right? And we know that the Canadiens back in October, November wouldn't have dealt with that very well. They would have given up a goal, and then they would have got down on themselves, and they would have sort of started to scramble around in their own zone, and they would have lost some of their structure, they would have lost some of their shape, and they would have kind of fallen apart. And they didn't do that tonight, right? They weathered the storm. So I've taken some notes here, right? So you play the game that's put in front of you. The Stars come out flying in the first period. And the reality is that, regardless of how good you get, regardless of how much of a contender and how high you are within the echelons of the NHL, there are still going to be teams out there that are good or better than you, or that you have to, that are going to show up and be a better team than you on any given night. Right? And these are games that you still have to compete in. You still have to try and win these games and get the most out of them that you possibly can. So like you're, just because you're, one of the best teams in the league doesn't mean that, you're going to, walk over everybody in the NHL. There's going to be nights where the other team is going to put up a pretty good fight. And so what do you do when that happens? What do you do when that other team shows up and they give you a good fight, right? They come in right off the bat, they punch you in the face, like they're all over you, like they're swarming, they're getting shots on net, and what do you do? And what the Canadiens did tonight, as Entertap rightly pointed out, they weathered the storm. So for me, you've got to take what the other team gives you. You've got to sort of weather the storm. You've got to sort of survive their onslaught. They're going to come at you hard, and you don't want to sort of back off, but you want to bend, but you don't want to break. So you have to survive what they're giving you. And eventually you're going to get your opportunities. So you want to survive what they're putting to you, and then when you get your opportunities, you want to make sure that you take advantage of them, right? So the Canadiens, one of their strategies tonight was, in the face of a team that was swarming them a little bit offensively, they got very physical with them, right? They threw the body around. I think the shots tonight were something ridiculous. I know that the stat tracking or the tracking hits in the NHL is not very good, but according to the NHL website, the Canadiens out-hit Dallas tonight 30-8. So I think that number is probably a little bit exaggerated, but at the same time, that's what they did tonight. How do we weather this storm? Well, we're gonna maintain our structures. We're gonna stay true to ourselves in our game. We're not gonna fold. We're not gonna break down. We're gonna do our best to maintain our shape, but we're also gonna go out there and hit them. Right? We're gonna make them earn everything they get, and your goalie is a big part of this, right? So if you're weathering the storm, if the other team is all over you, or not all over you, but if they're bringing their game, you want to minimize the impact of them bringing their game. You want to minimize the impact of them, dominating or being the better team for whatever length of time that goes on for. And the goaltender's a big part of that. And so tonight, Sam Montembeault's performance was immense, right? So he kept the team in the game. Earlier in the season, we might have seen either him or Caden Primo allow 2 or 3 goals in that first period, and the game would have been over. But tonight, Montembeault stood his ground. He made the saves that he needed to make, and the Canadiens minimized the impact of what Dallas was bringing their way. And so that was really important. So they minimized what Dallas was bringing their way. They could have easily been down by 2 or 3 goals in that first period, but they weren't, right? And so they weathered the storm. And then they were ready. So eventually, every team, the Dallas Stars weren't going to maintain that pace for the entire game, and so you need to be ready when that pace lessens, when that pace kind of slows down a little bit. You need to be ready for it, and you need to be ready to jump on it and take advantage of that opportunity. And that's kind of what the Canadiens did in the second period. They waited for Dallas to kind of, it's like boxing, right? The rope-a-dope a little bit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with boxing. I know boxing isn't really that big of a sport anymore, but the rope-a-dope, right? You let the other guy sort of punch himself out a little bit. You cover up and you let him hit you, but you make sure that what he's hitting you with isn't going to hurt you. And then once he kind of gets tired of punching you all the time, then you can take advantage of your opportunity to either try and get some scoring chances or scoring opportunities of your own, or at least even the pace of the game. And that's what the Canadiens did in the second and third period. So, I thought it was a really good game. It's, they played the game that was put in front of them. They're going to have to beat, and they're going to have to play teams that are playing really, really well. And they've been doing that lately. They're playing the game that's put in front of them. They beat Colorado. They beat Las Vegas. They beat Florida. They beat Tampa Bay. They beat Washington. Tonight they didn't beat Dallas, but they certainly didn't take a step backwards. They didn't revert back to their old ways. They didn't, this is not a step backwards. They're not going to win every game. So, again, we'll get to the report card later on, but you want to look good when you lose, right? That's the key, right? You want to put on a good show and put on a good performance, give yourself a chance to win. So tonight I thought the Canadiens had every chance to win. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to do it. They gave themselves every opportunity to win, and for whatever reason, they just couldn't. They just couldn't finish it, and they couldn't get the goals in the goal in overtime. I thought they were really hard done by in overtime. I thought there could have been 2 penalties called in the overtime. But again, Wes McCauley is the king of, he's the boss, right? Wes McCauley's going to call the game he wants to call, And, it doesn't matter what the rules are. It doesn't matter, what the scenario is, what the situation is. Wes McCauley's going to be in charge, and he's going to be the boss, and he's going to make sure that everybody remembers that Wes McCauley was the referee after every game he's involved in. So that's my main takeaway for tonight, guys, is weathering the storm. Again, another winning habit that the Canadiens are developing. It's something they didn't. It's a skill. It's an ability that they didn't, or a habit they didn't have at the beginning of the year, or certainly one that they were on their way or working on or practicing or developing. Right? Like I said, if this Dallas team had come into Montreal, the end of October, the beginning of November, they probably would have had a pretty easy time with the Montreal Canadiens. But the Canadiens have developed this, these winning habits, and weathering the storm is one of them. And I think it was on full display tonight. So that's pretty much my takeaways for the game tonight. Let's get back. Dallas does not react well to not being able to skate liberally and dictate the play. Yes, absolutely, Intertap. And that's kind of how they minimize. Dallas was flying around, but Montreal kind of minimized their opportunities by not allowing them to sort of freewheel and be all over the place. So the fans got a great spectacle again Saturday night in Montreal. Right? There's no better place to be than the Bell Center on a Saturday night. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a Leafs fan. I don't care if you're an Ottawa fan. I don't care if you're an Oilers fan or whoever you cheer for. It doesn't really matter. Montreal on a Saturday night when the hockey is on, there's no better place to be. I mean, you could feel the energy and the electricity in the arena. It kind of it got a little bit tense. Because the game was so close. So that the fans, I don't think, were as loud as they normally can be. But I thought it was a great game, and the fans certainly, as you say, Franco, did get a good show. So welcome, Franco. Welcome, Entertap. Welcome, RDP. Entertap says, not really sure that Dallas brought it to them in the first. I know they outshot Montreal, but most chances were from the perimeter, and Monty was solid. Defense did not give any rebounds. I don't know if I agree with that, Entertap. I mean, I agree with you that the Canadiens limited the impact of Dallas, but I don't think. I mean, the stats are pretty clear that the game was dominated in the first period. It's not just the shots; it's the expected goals, it's the high danger scoring chances. I think were pretty heavily in favor of Dallas in that period. But I think you're right. The Canadiens did do a good job of making sure that those chances weren't. Obviously, that they minimized the impact, the effect of those chances. Right, it's exactly as you say. Like again, this is a team that in the past would have given up 3 or 4 goals in that first period, and it would have been lights out. And that's just not the team they are anymore. Welcome, El Hacker. How are you? Good evening. Thank you for coming. You're new here, and it's great to see you. Habs are playing way better than the Leafs right now. Okay. I honestly haven't really been watching the Leafs of late. Certainly the results have been there for the Leafs. I know they lost today, but I don't know that the Canadiens are playing way better than the Leafs right now. I think the Canadiens are playing well. But yeah, we'll see. The Canadiens certainly have a long way to go, but they are on an uphill climb right now, or on a upward trajectory. So fans got their money's worth. That's all I'm asking for. Yeah, I mean, I'm asking for more than that, Franco. I'm asking for more than that, but it is a big part of it. It is that the Canadiens go out and put on a good show. We'll talk about it in the report card, right? Energy. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God, I'll get to my report card later. Anyway, didn't like Laine diving in the OT. He was tired, I guess. Well, I don't think he dove. I think he stayed down longer than he needed to. But I think you're right. He was tired. Again, should have been a penalty. Again, Wes McCauley isn't going to call that because it's his show and he doesn't want anybody else to be ruin his show. There was also the penalty on Caulfield along the boards where he was hauled down as well. I think Dallas kind of got away with one a little bit there. Got away with 2. But it is what it is. I was more focused on the NFL games than hockey today. Okay, not me, El Hacker. I'm an NHL guy. My NFL team sucks anyway this year, so I haven't really been watching the NFL anyway. Claude, bonjour, bienvenue. Claude, comment ça va? Go Habs, go. Habs played old-time hockey tonight. Larry, absolutely, right? They played the game that was put in front of them, right? Dallas brought up, a certain game to them, and they responded quite well. Unfortunately, they weren't able to win, but they're playing against, again, as I've said multiple times, one of the best teams in the league playing their best hockey of the year. They're on a 6-game, now a 7-game winning streak. So you're not going to win every game, and if you are going to lose a game, those are the ones that you're most likely to lose. Are the ones that are against teams that are on a bit of a streak, on a bit of a roll. And again, I don't see this game negatively impacting their momentum. This momentum that they currently have, as far as how well they played for the last month or so. I don't see this game sort of being a reversal of fortune or something that results in them sort of stepping or taking a step backwards towards where they were earlier in the season. I think they're that momentum is still there. I think they'll be comfortable with the way they played tonight, and that if they play that way on most nights, it'll end up with a positive result. So. Not a lot of questions here in the comments, guys. Keep them coming. I'm going to go to the A team here, I guess. Now that's our next step in the process. Again, if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. If you hit the notification bell, that means you'll get a little notification on your phone or on your iPad or on your laptop or whatever that'll let you know when we go live. We do go live every night after the Canadiens play. The show is called Habs After Dark. And we do get on the air about 10 or 15 minutes after the game ends. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you are enjoying the content, please do so. YouTube tells me that only about 35 or 40% of you are actually subscribed. 40% of the people who actually watch the show are actually subscribed to the show. So we'll get to the scoreboard here real quick, and let's do it. I said we were going to go to the A team, but we're actually not going to go to the A team. We're going to go to the scoreboard. And so here's your scoreboard, guys. Again, it's a 2-1 final for Dallas with the shootout. Jason Robertson gets the winning goal in the shootout. Let's go through it real quickly. There's not a lot of goals to go through, so this shouldn't really take us that long. Here we go. So, first period, no scoring. Again, the Canadiens weathered the storm, right? Dallas comes out and they're playing quite well. They're bringing it to the Canadiens, but the Canadiens are able to survive. They're able to weather the storm. No scoring in the first period. The shots in the first period are 16-7. The high danger scoring chances are, I think it's 6-3 or 8-3. I'm going to check that just to be sure I got that right. It is, pardon me, 6-3. So high danger scoring chances, they doubled up the Canadiens in the first period. And the high danger scoring chances, or the expected goals are 1.5 to 0.5. So again, a dominant period by the Dallas Stars, but the Canadiens do manage to keep them a little bit on the outside, and they're able to minimize the damage from that first period. The Canadiens managed to score at about just about 15 minutes into the second period on what I referred to on a Blue Sky comment as perhaps the most predictable goal in the history of the NHL. The Canadiens went on to a 5-on-3 power play, and they had about 1 minute and 40 seconds on the 5-on-3 power play. And I don't think that there's a single person who was watching that game live on TV, listening to it on the radio, any way you were involved in that game, you knew that Patrick Laine probably was going to score a goal on a slap shot from the left-hand dot. I certainly knew that was. I mean, again, I didn't know it was going to happen, but certainly that was pretty predictable. If you had given me, $1,000 and said, what do you want to bet on here? That's what I would have bet on, and that's what happened. So it's Laine from Suzuki and Hudson on the power play at 15-14. It's Laine's 9th of the season, all 9 on the power play. Hudson with his 29th assist, and the Canadiens went up 1-0. They weren't able to capitalize on the second penalty, and so the score remained 1-0. And then about 2 minutes later, Jamie Benn tied it up. It was a goal. Let's see how we describe the goal here. My notes. So Carrier is down in his end. He pinches. He tries to keep the puck in the zone. He tries to get the puck off the boards. He kind of blows a tire a little bit. He goes down. The puck kind of chips into the center of the ice. The puck ends up with Maverick Bourque. Maverick Bourque makes a nice pass out into the neutral zone. Nice transition play by him. It's Jamie Benn and Heiskanen, Miro Heiskanen, are going in on Sam Montembeault on a 2-on-1. Jamie Benn keeps the puck, and he beats Sam Montembeault with a wrist shot on the short side. So it's it's tied at 1. The Dallas Stars come back right away. They tie it up. They're not going to let the Canadiens run away with it. And so the score after 2 periods is 1-1. The shots in that period were 12-7 in favor of Montreal. So again, they've weathered the storm. Now, Dallas has kind of punched themselves out a little bit. The Canadiens are now going to take advantage of the opportunity that's been presented. Dallas is not, they're not firing on all cylinders the way they were in the first period. And so, Montreal kind of came around the 6-5 high danger scoring chances and 1.3 to 0.6 on the expected goal. So the Canadiens were the better team in that second period. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come out of it with a lead. And, the score is tied 1-1 after 1. The third period, again, both teams are pretty even. They're not giving each other very much to look at. The shots are 11-8. The Canadiens' high danger scoring chances were 5-1. That number seems a little off to me. Natural stat trick oftentimes will go back and change their numbers, an hour or so after the game is over. That number does seem a little off to me. I thought that the play was a little bit more even than that in the third period. And certainly the expected goals demonstrate that, 0.9 to 0.5. Unfortunately, the Canadiens weren't able to score in the third period, but fortunately neither were the Dallas Stars. So we are heading to overtime again. In the overtime period, a lot of back and forth play, a really entertaining overtime period. Nice performances by Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Patrick Laine. They all looked quite good. In fact, there was one opportunity the Canadiens went in on a 2-on-1. I think it was Laine and I'm not sure who was with him. And it was a very similar situation to the play that Lane Hudson made last night. The pass comes across on the 2-on-1, and the defender blocks it with his foot, and it kind of ends up going the other way. Fortunately, Sam Montembeault was able to make the save on the play. Dallas outshoots Montreal 4-0 in the overtime, but I don't think it was that lopsided, if I'm being honest. I thought Montreal certainly had some opportunities and had some of the play. I spoke earlier about the fact that I think there could have been a couple penalties called in that overtime that Wes McCauley decided that he didn't want to call. It was not Lane Hudson, Big Tuna. That's. Maybe it was. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It was. Anyways, if you're over on TikTok, guys, come on over and join us on YouTube. We will. You can join the conversation over here. We'd love to have you. It'd be a great time. I promise you'll have fun. So that's it for the scoring, guys. It's 1-1 after overtime. We go to a shootout. So the first shooter for Montreal is Patrick Laine. Not the guy I probably would have picked. I know he was having a good game, and it was kind of the vibe was there to give it to Laine. But anyways, he gets stopped by Ottinger. Robertson is able to get one by Montembeault. He shoots high over the left shoulder on Montembeault. Caulfield puts a nice move on Ottinger, but can't beat him. 5-hole, he tries. And then Wyatt Johnston goes in. He misses. He hits the post. He actually hits both posts. And then Suzuki goes in, and not a great effort by Suzuki, if I'm being honest. He kind of just went in and just, fired a shot, kind of hoping, I think, that Ottinger would be cheating a little bit to one side. And he wasn't, and the shot just kind of went wide, and there was, he just shot from the hash marks, really. So there really wasn't much there. So Ottinger saves all three, and Robertson scores for Dallas. That gives them the shootout win. The final is 2-1, and that's all she wrote. Again, a very good game, very close game. I thought both teams played well on both sides of the puck, and again, I think if Montreal plays that well or that way against most teams, they'll end up with a victory. But it just wasn't in the cards for them tonight. So, so that's the scoreboard for tonight, guys. Let's get over here. They should be proud of their game tonight. I agree, Larry. Again, I think it's just it's another. They're continuing on their upward trajectory. I think there was nothing wrong with this game tonight. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. We'll get to the report card later. Dallas play gritty playoff style hockey. Yeah, I think that's probably right, Robert. I'm not a huge fan of Jamie Benn. I think Jamie Benn's a little bit of a dirty player. But he's probably not that fun to play against, so that's fair enough. I cannot stand Matt Dumba. I think Matt Dumba is in the same category with some of the greasier guys in the league, and he doesn't like that situation in the first period where he doesn't even really get hit that hard. He gets bumped because the referee blows the whistle late on an icing call. Josh Anderson is trying to get to the puck as quickly as he can. And because he's trying to get there and because the referee is late blowing the whistle, Dumba gets bumped. It's not a hit by any means. It wasn't a dangerous play. And, he kind of loses his mind. And with a full cage on, he turns around and throws a right cross right in Josh Anderson's face. And Anderson kind of responds in kind. And for whatever reason, Wes McCauley decided that he, thought that, Josh Anderson deserved an extra 2 minutes there. Again, an absolutely ridiculous call. And just the referees, every night there seems to be a call that you can point to that just demonstrates a pure and clear lack of comprehension as to, the situation and whatever. So I won't get into the refs too hard tonight because I don't think they were that much of an impact, although I do think there could have been a penalty in overtime. So Nicolas Bouchard, I prefer a loss in overtime, but the team played well. Than a win, but the team played like shit. Yeah, so you prefer when they lose, but they play well, than when they win and they play badly. So yes, I agree with that, Nicolas. I really think that this loss is an improvement for the process and the development of the rebuild. Je suis d'accord avec toi, Nicolas. Je pense que c'est un bon match pour le Canadien. Je pense que c'est une continuation de leur bon jeu. Ils jouent bien depuis un mois maintenant. C'est une continuation de ça. C'est pas un retour au moins qu'ils jouaient avant Noël. Pour moi, ils vont continuer d'utiliser le momentum qu'ils ont en ce moment. Je ne sais pas exactement c'est quand ou contre qui le prochain match. Mais pour moi, c'est encore un pas en avant pour le rebuild, comme tu dis. So I do think it was, this is, as Nicolas says, it's, it is a positive step for, their development as a team and building towards being a contender. And it is, positive for the rebuild. So it was a great test for the Habs. Yes, they've had a number of tests lately, right, Robert? And they seem to be passing them, right? They passed their tests, right? Obviously, they passed the test against, Colorado and Las Vegas and Washington and Florida and Tampa Bay with wins. But again, you can pass the test. You can play well and not win. So I think that's. I think we can certainly look positively on this game, as Robert and Nicolas point out. One thing I don't like in a shootout is when the players try fancy moves. Rather see players skate towards the goalie. Fancy stuff gives goalie more of a chance to make a save. I don't agree with that, Mike. I think that some players overdo it a little bit by coming in wide and going slow and whatever. But for the most part, I think that those doing that gives them the opportunity. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get the goalie to commit. They're trying to get the goalie to commit to a certain action. And if the goalie can commit to that action, the sooner the better. They can then react to the goalie and use that to their advantage. And that's what they're trying to do by coming in slowly and coming in wide. And it is an effective strategy, and it's the reason why you see so many players doing it nowadays. Now, if I could show you a video, I don't have it handy here right now, but there was a shootout in the KHL a couple of weeks ago by Evgeny Kuznetsov for SKA, and it was ridiculous. I think it took him. I can't remember what it was. It was like over 20. I think it was like 24 seconds or 25 seconds it took him to get from the center dot to the goal before he took his shot. It was absurd. And I, in that sense, I agree with you, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with slow rolling the shootout. Obviously there's advantages to coming in quickly. You can sort of, catch the goalie by surprise and so on and so forth. But, there definitely is, there's a strategy behind that slow meandering, wide, penalty shot. So you're trying to get the goalie out of position. So Congrats to Ovi, who becomes only the second player to ever score 20 goals in 20 straight seasons. Well, I wasn't aware of that. I'm not watching any of the other games right now, Intertap. But yeah, if that's the case, then congratulations. RDP, you're scratching your chin there. What's that all about? What do you got to say? What's on your mind? All right, gang. Before we go to the A team, guys, we're going to tell everybody, if you're over on TikTok, come on over and follow us and check out our show here on YouTube. You are invited. We would love to have you. If you are here on YouTube and you're watching live, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Whether you're watching in the live right now or whether you're watching it later on in a replay. So I'm going to pour myself another little taste of my delicious rum here. And we're going to get ready for the A team. Anybody have any thoughts on who should be on the A team? A team for tonight. Who are your choices for the A team? I will ask you after I show you my A team, but if you have your thoughts on who you think should be on the A team, I'd love to hear it. I have my choices, and you might have yours. So let's have a look here. There's our A team right there, and here we go. So there it is, guys. There's the A team for tonight against the Dallas Stars, 11th of January, 2024. We have Lane Hudson, Uri Slavkovsky, Sam Montembeault, and Patrick Laine. So those are our four members of the A team tonight. The A team, of course, is my version of the 3 stars. These are the players who I believe brought it to the game tonight. They were the players who performed at their best. They're the ones who stepped up and did their job. That's not to say that there's not anybody out there that, it's not to say that everybody else out there didn't do their job or didn't step up or whatever, but certainly welcome your input as to who you think should be there. If I miss somebody that you think deserves to be on that list, if there's somebody on that list that you think doesn't belong there, any of that stuff. So, Lane Hudson for me was just solid on defense all night. Defense and offense. He made a couple of really nice plays defensively. He was solid all the way. His underlying numbers were fantastic. Again, he set up a number of plays. He just had a really good game. Had a really good typical Lane Hudson game. Uri Slavkovsky I thought was great throwing the body. I think he had 5 or 6 body checks, 5 or 6 hits tonight. I thought that was really good. He certainly stepped up his game. It's now 2 games in a row. I think he probably could have deserved a spot on our A team last night, but unfortunately I chose his 2 line mates, and he was kind of left out in the cold a little bit last night, so I wanted to give him some recognition tonight. I thought he looked really good. He was moving his feet. He was winning board battles. He was making body contact. He was being big, heavy, strong, physical, and I thought he looked really, really good. Sam Montembeault, again, what are you going to say? He allowed 1 goal on 35 shots tonight, and he just looked spectacular, right? Again, bend, don't break. We talked about weathering the storm. Sam Montembeault is a big part of weathering the storm. You don't weather the storm if your goalie's not gonna show up. If your goalie doesn't show up, then it doesn't matter how well you play in front of him. A team like Dallas is going to take you to the cleaners, and tonight Sam Montembeault certainly did his part. In the first period, and sort of any other time he was really called on to make a play, right? Anytime he was called on to make a save, anytime Dallas got a decent scoring chance, he was there and ready to go. So that's kind of where we are with Montembeault's game. Anybody out there who seems to think that Montembeault is at some kind of risk of losing his starting job because Jakub Dobash is playing so well, I think that's kind of crazy. Obviously, the better Dobash plays, the more he'll probably get on the ice. But again, as far as Montembeault, losing his starting job, I don't think that is even something worth even talking about or thinking about at this stage, because it's just not. Again, I know that as hockey fans and as sports fans, especially in Montreal, we like to think about crazy things and we get ahead of ourselves sometimes. But again, Montembeault is not losing his starting job. Yeah, he's done nothing to deserve that, or even to deserve it even being discussed or contemplated, and it's just not going to happen. Patrick Laine, again, another power play goal, the most predictable goal probably in the history of the entire NHL. But I thought he played well otherwise. A big hit in the second period, I think. Used his body, again, I thought his legs looked a little bit heavy, which was to be expected if, he was out. He missed 4 games with the flu. It sounds like, the flu took a good bite out of him. And to be honest with you, you might argue that he hadn't even had his legs fully under him before he got the flu. So, he came back from the knee injury, and you might argue that he wasn't at 100%, as far as, cardio and fitness and whatever that, was concerned. And again, he just kind of looked like he was moving a little bit slowly out there tonight, but, certainly his game was there. His passing was great. His stick work was really nice. And again, the physical part of his game is kind of underrated. And I it was nice to see him out there, being physical. And, he had a couple of good scoring chances, 5-on-5. And of course he buried the opportunity that was presented to him on the power play. So those are my members of the A-team, guys. Let's see what you guys think. Is there anybody that you think I missed out on? Entertap says Monty, Laine, Hudson, and Caulfield. So you've got Caulfield over Slavkovsky. Yeah, I could buy that. I thought Slavkovsky was a little bit more impactful tonight than Caulfield was, but again, I think that's nitpicking a little bit. I don't disagree with Caulfield, and again, I kind of in part decided to go with Slavkovsky because I did go with Caulfield last night, and could have gone either way. Slav dished out some good checks, and again, it's not always about big bomb checks, right? I mean, obviously, there was a big check by Anderson, there was a big hit by Arbor Jacki behind the net, the Laine hit that we just talked about. Those big hits are nice, but when you're a guy like Slavkovsky, it's just those finishing your checks. You don't have to kill a guy; you just have to let him know you're there, and by finishing your check, you're slowing him down a tiny little bit. You're making him take a little bit longer to get back in the play, and they mount up. They build, right, when you're constantly getting, especially defensemen, right. You're constantly hitting them and giving them a little, making sure they understand that they're in a hockey game, and I think that's kind of what Slavkovsky needs to work towards, doing on a more regular basis. So. Gooley also tonight, by the way, there was a couple of big hits. Sam Constantino. Sam Constantino doing color commentary. Talk about, giving us the fourth line tonight. Terrible. Just terrible. He, at this point, you need to know that it's not Joel Armia, it's Yoel Armia. Now, I get that that's being a little bit pedantic, but if you're a guy doing color commentary on the on national TV on a Saturday night in Canada, and you've been working for Sportsnet for the better part of a decade, you need to know how to pronounce Yoel Armia's name, right? Again, I get that that's maybe being nitpicky, but that's crazy. Dadonov, right? It's Dadonov, not Dadanov. These are silly little things, but you've got to know this stuff if you're going to be doing a Saturday night game on Hockey Night in Canada. Come on, man. And then just the commentary that he was giving, it's very clear that he knows very little about the Dallas Stars and the Montreal Canadiens. He knows very little about them and did very little homework. And again, you can say what you want about Gary Galley. At least Gary Galley will do his homework and he'll know what he's talking about when he shows up at the game. I thought Sam Constantino was not, can you think of one piece of valuable information that Sam Constantino provided during the entire game? That's the job of the color commentary guy. Other than talking about, the fact that the Canadiens got in at 3 a.m. this morning, 53 times, he just didn't offer us anything. So, Nicolas, first time coming, really cool vibe. I did my job with the like and subscribe. Thank you, Nicolas. Thanks a lot for the content. I will certainly be back. En passant, merci pour la réponse en français. C'est pas de problème, Nicolas. C'est pour moi, j'aime bien parler en français. J'aimerais pratiquer mon français, alors ça me donne une opportunité de faire ça. Alors, Si vous voulez nous rejoindre une autre fois, if you want to come back to our show another time, tu peux me demander les questions en français et je vais faire mon mieux pour répondre en français aussi. Alors, merci beaucoup. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for being here, Nicolas. A-team tonight, Monty, Gouli, Suzuki, and Laine. Yeah, I think I could agree with all those guys deserving to be there. Monty for sure, and Laine for sure. I mean, I had Slavkovsky and Hudson. I thought Hudson was pretty good tonight. I didn't think that Gouli. I mean, Gouli had a good game, but I don't think he had a great game tonight. And again, Slavkovsky I thought was every bit as good as his line mates tonight, and probably better all around. And given where he's been lately, it was nice to see him get back on track. So I felt it was it was nice to give him that credit. Dobesh being good is a blessing. It allows Monty to rest and possibly be well rested for the playoffs. Stick out your tongue. But let's not kid ourselves. Monty is our number one, and he proved it again tonight. Yeah, again, you don't lose your number one job because a young kid comes in and has 2 or 3 good games. Again, we all hope and pray, and not pray, but we all hope and expect that Jakub Dobesh will continue to play well, and that he'll eventually become a good goalie in this league. And but again, Montembeault would have to do an awful lot to lose that position as the number one goalie on this team. It's just not. It's not realistic, right? It's not realistic to think that, after all this time and all of what, Montembeault has done for the team, that he's going to lose that job. And, honestly, if he does lose the job, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be like one day Martin St. Louis turns around and says, okay, Dobesh is our number one. What it's going to be is, Dobesh will be playing like 1 out of every 4 games. And then, maybe he'll start be playing every 1 out of every 3 games. And then maybe eventually they'll get to the point where they're both sharing equal time in nets, kind of like Ullmark and Swayman last year. And then, that's the way it'll happen. It'll happen slowly over a really long period of time. It's not going to be a situation where, Montembeault has 1 bad game and, Marty St. Louis decides, okay, you're not our number one goalie anymore. It's just not going to happen that way. So let's get to our report card, guys. There's not a lot of action in here tonight. I thought there would be more action. They got 16 people in here, but we've only got 43 comments. We've only got 14 thumbs up. If you're in here, you're enjoying the content, give us a thumbs up. If you like what you're seeing, if you like what you're hearing, if you enjoy the content, thumbs up. There it is right here, guys. See right here, this little graphic, this little thingamajiggy I put together here. If you are enjoying what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up. We're trying to get to 50 thumbs up tonight. I don't look very good right now. We're only at 15, but again, there's 20 people in here, so surely we can get a couple of thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're seeing. If you're over there on TikTok, guys, follow the instructions on the screen behind me. Come on over to YouTube. We're doing a show called Habs After Dark. If you want to get in on the comments, if you want to get in on some questions, if you want to talk about the game or the Canadiens or about hockey and the NHL in general, happy to have you, and we'd love for you to come over and join us over here. Really easy to do, and I promise you that it will be a good time. But the questions have kind of slowed down here a little bit now. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but let's get over to our report card. So the report card tonight is kind of predictable. The report card, of course, is my way of judging how the Canadiens play. Wins and losses are not always the best way to judge the team when they're in a rebuild. Sometimes, as a couple of you have already pointed out tonight, sometimes they win and don't look good, and sometimes they lose and look great. And this is kind of a way of assessing that and a way of looking at the way that they play, so that we can sort of look at that and determine whether or not they're moving in the right direction, whether they've had a good game, whether they've had a bad game, and whatever. So tonight I have given them check marks across the board with the exception of 3 or more goals. 4, obviously, they only were able to score 1 goal tonight, so I can't give them a check mark there. They did allow 3 or fewer goals, which again is a key. Again, 3 goals per game is a bit of a standard in the NHL. If you allow fewer than 3 and if you score more than 3, either of those are positive. If you do both of those things, then you're in pretty good shape. If you go through an entire season allowing fewer than 3 goals a game and scoring more than 3 goals a game, you're almost certainly going to be in a playoff position. So that's kind of where that all comes from. So again, tonight they were able to hold Dallas to just 2 goals. Sorry, actually, really just to 1 goal. If we're being honest about it, the second goal never really actually happened because it was just a shootout goal or a result of the shootout. Kind of where that all comes from. So again, tonight they were able to. So so that's kind of where we come at from that. That's where we come at that from that. Special teams tonight, they were 1 for 3 on the power play, I think. They were 1 for 3, and they held Dallas scoreless on the power play, 0 for 1. Again, 1 for 3 was a 5-on-3 power play. You kind of expect them to score on that play, but they did, right? They were presented with that opportunity. They were presented with it, and sorry guys, I'm going to ask you guys a question in the chat to see if it's actually working because it appears to be kind of slowed down a little bit there. I don't know what's going on. There's nobody really chatting, so. Engagement, effort, and energy. Again, we talked about this a minute ago. It was there all night long. Despite the lack of scoring and despite the some of the performance, as far as production goes, I thought that the energy was there from the get go. Whether it was weathering the storm in the first period or whether it was sort of taking the game to Dallas in the second and third, I thought they did really well. Okay, Larry, thank you. It is working. Perfect. I thought you guys all abandoned me. It says there's 20 of you in the room right now, but nobody's asking any questions. Maybe I'm talking so much you guys don't have any questions anymore. I'm answering your questions before you get to them. Progress, I do think, as we mentioned earlier, this is continues to be them moving in the right direction. They're moving. This is not a game that sort of we would consider to be a step backwards despite the loss. It's not a game where we see their progress or their momentum forward, coming to a halt or anything like that. I think that is still the case. They are still moving in the right direction. There still is some progress there, and we do see them continuing in the right direction. Pride, I thought they showed pride, right? Again, pride is a bit of a hard one to judge, but they very definitely brought their game tonight. They very definitely played in a way that showed that they care, right? So they didn't sort of, we've seen in the past where they can, quit. I don't think teams ever quit, even though I think there was the 9-2 game against Pittsburgh. Even some of the players said that they quit. I don't think they actually quit. I think they just become so frustrated that they kind of fall apart a little bit. They lose their shape. They lose their structure. And again, tonight they definitely showed up. And, despite being sort of outplayed in the first period, they maintained their pride. They maintained their shape and all that stuff. Discipline, again, just the one penalty tonight, again, was, a bit of a ridiculous one on Josh Anderson in the first period. He takes a punch in the face and responds in kind. And for whatever reason, Wes McCauley, the superstar referee of the NHL, decides that he's going to have he's going to put on a show and he's going to give Josh Anderson an extra 2 minutes. So, did they play for 60 minutes? Absolutely, right. Despite the fact that they were outplayed in the first period, I thought they still played well. Right, we talked about it. This is the takeaway from tonight's game: weathering the storm. Right, this could be the title of tonight's show. Is weathering the storm. Another positive winning habit that the Montreal Canadiens have seemed to develop. So yeah, that's it for the report card. Do you guys agree with that? Is there any check mark on there that you think deserves an X? Like, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Do you have your own thoughts on any of those categories that we might want to talk about? Larry and Claude say yes, so the chat seems to be working. Billy says, what new players prospects are expecting to see on the team next season? Oh, what a great question. To me, again, I can't say that I expect any of the new players or prospects to be there because I think with prospects it is pretty speculative. There's an element of them stepping up and earning a job, and obviously there's guys who you see on a path to making it to the NHL, but sometimes that path works, sometimes that path doesn't work, sometimes that path takes longer than expected, sometimes it takes less time than expected. For example, I wasn't convinced that Lane Hudson would just step into the NHL this year. I thought there might be there might be a situation where he'd have to go to the AHL for a little while and just get used to playing pro hockey, learn what it is to play against grown men, as a smaller defenseman, with little experience and being quite young. We all know that young defensemen don't always succeed in the NHL. I thought there might be, he might have to go to the American Hockey League and spend, half a season or a season down there. I was clearly very wrong about that, right? And so he came in, stepped in, was good enough and do it right away. So in that sense, he exceeded my expectations. Logan Mailloux, the other way around. I thought Logan Mailloux would probably be ready this year to make it to the NHL. He was an all-star in the American League last year. He was the top rookie defenseman in the league. He produced at a high level offensively, but, he came to the NHL this year and he just wasn't ready. He wasn't able to grasp the Canadian systems. He went down to the American League, and his production seems to be dying off right now. And I think some people are kind of down on him a little bit. But I think it might be more of a case of he's working on things down there, which is reflective on his lack of production. But maybe we see him come around a little bit later. So as far as guys that I think are coming up, I see coaches here. Coach knows a lot more about the prospects than I do. He'd be a good guy for this question. But guys I see, I think, who will get a good chance. I mean, I think that Joshua Roy and Logan Mailloux will get a chance to make the team next year, for sure. I think they'll get an opportunity. I think that Owen Beck will get an opportunity to be on the team next year. Adam Engstrom, I think, will have an opportunity to make the team next year. Obviously, Demidov, again. Demidov, my approach to Demidov is very similar to my approach to Lane Hudson last year. I do think he's got all the talent in the world, but I'm not going to assume that he's going to jump right into the NHL. I think he probably can, and I think he probably will. But again, I don't think it will be the end of the world if he doesn't, if he does have to spend some time in the American League. But again, the way he's playing in the KHL, he definitely appears to be ready. But the KHL isn't the NHL, so we don't know. I mean, I'm relatively confident, but again, I don't know what that'll be. Anytime an 18-year-old or 19-year-old is coming, you can't assume they're going to make it in the NHL. So we'll see. But again, those are the guys I think are the most likely to be, making a move. So Roy, Mailloux, Beck, Engstrom, Demidov. Those would be the guys I think would be the most likely candidates to, and Kapanen, I guess. Oliver Kapanen could come back and take another run at the lineup after making the team out of camp this year. I think that probably was a bit of a mistake. I think they probably should have sent him back to Timrå earlier or right away. But so that's kind of where I'm coming at. Those are the guys. I don't know if there are any guys that you think. I see coaches in here. There are guys that I missed, Coach, that'll be in the mix for making the team next year. When do I think Dobesh plays his next game? Well, what's the calendar? What's the schedule look like? Stand by. I want to see what the calendar, the schedule looks like for Montreal next week. Why can't I do this? NHL Canadien. I know you guys are probably all yelling at the screen what the calendar, the schedule is for next year, but I just want to bring it up on the screen so I can see it for myself. What is going on here? Here we go. Schedule. So the schedule for next week is they play on... Here we go. So they play on Tuesday in Utah, and then they play Thursday in Dallas, and then they play Saturday night at home against Toronto. So I would say that you might see Dobesh on that Thursday night game against Dallas would be my guess. I think you certainly could play Montembeault in all three of those games next week. There's a day in between each of them. But I think you probably see Montembeault start against Utah, and then you'll see Dobesh in Dallas, and then I think you'll see Montembeault back in the goal on Saturday against the Leafs, and then they play on Sunday against the Rangers. So again, back to back. So maybe you see Dobesh again against the Rangers. I don't know. Again, maybe you see Dobesh play. Maybe Montembeault plays both of the road games, and then Dobesh plays against Toronto, and then Montembeault goes back in the net on Sunday. I don't know. We'll see. Should be interesting. Claude, I think a week tomorrow as Habs have another back-to-back game next weekend. Yes, Mike. There we go. Thanks, Larry. Claude will be Dallas or Toronto. Yeah, I think I agree with that, Coach. Bonjour, André. Comment ça va? Good evening. Thoughts on the OT 3-on-3? Habs looked too cautious in OT. I understand that they want to control the puck around. They just didn't. I don't agree with that, Peter Levite. I thought they looked really good in the overtime. I thought they moved the puck well. Puck possession is the key in overtime. You don't want to lose the puck unnecessarily. That's just the way it is. Like, it's just, the more you have the puck in overtime, the better. So again, as far as them being cautious, I'm not sure I would say cautious. I think they could have probably had a couple of penalties called in their favor in the overtime, certainly. But again, that, I don't, again, I know that it can be boring for people to see them, sort of carry the puck back out over the blue line and set up in the neutral zone and all that stuff, but that's not going to change. I mean, that's the best way to win in overtime, is to do all of that and to set up a play. It is more exciting, of course, when things get a little scrambly and the teams start to go back and forth, where the guys make a shot and the other team tries to transition into a scoring chance the other way. But again, I wouldn't agree that was too cautious. I think that's just the way you have to play in overtime. You can't go out there and just think that you're gonna go in on waves, and you've got to make sure that if you get a shot on goal, that it's a pretty solid scoring opportunity. Mayu this year's what, Andre? I don't know what you mean by that. If you need a checkbox with shot amounts and the CH didn't do well tonight, limiting your opponent to 30 or less is a great way to win. I don't know if shots are the best way of counting it, Greg. I don't think that shots on goal are a great way. I think the Canadiens have shown this year that they do not get enough pucks on goal. I think that's definitely a factor. But as far as judging a team based on, if you're trying to find a measure of whether the team played well or not, I'm not sure that shots on goal is the best way to do it. Tonight they had 30 shots on goal tonight. So again, as far as the season is concerned, 30 shots on goal is not that bad. They're 31-30 in regulation tonight. So again, I don't think that shots are a great way of judging a team, and I don't think that tonight, there was any real issue with the number of shots they had on goal. Yakupov was bad. Neil Yakupov did not do well making it to the making it to the NHL. Yeah, he destroyed. He came with a lot of fanfare. There's a number of first round draft picks that don't make it. So again, when we talk about our prospects, there are never any guarantees, right? And we talked about this the other night. As they progress through each of the steps towards the NHL, the better they do at each one of those steps, the more likely they are to succeed in the NHL. But again, who knows? And Demidov has succeeded quite well at the KHL level, but the KHL isn't the NHL level. So some people top out, at a certain spot, and they just can't make it to the next level. So we'll see. Philippe Méjar is improving. Yeah, he's playing better hockey of late. I don't think that Méjar is probably in the mix or in the cards for the Montreal Canadiens, to be honest with you. For me, Philippe Méjar, if he's going to be on the Canadiens, has to be a top six forward. And I just don't see him being good enough to break into that world for Montreal. I don't see how how he does that. There's just the numbers. There are too many good players, good top six players coming in that will be ahead of him. I think the same applies to Riley Kidney. I think the same probably applies to Sean Farrell as well. Unfortunately for those guys. So I'm just having a look here at the. Speaking of prospects, guys. So Dartmouth beat Brown University 5-2, and was Emmett Croteau in nets for that one? He was not. So Emmett Croteau, Montreal Canadiens prospect, was not in nets for Dartmouth in that 5-2 win. Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Quinnipiac. Let's see the Canadiens, Montreal Canadiens prospects. Who do we have here? Boston College won 4-1 over Merrimack. Jacob Fowler had his worst game of the year last year. I think he allowed 5 goals last night. He had really struggled in nets. Tonight he came back. He allowed 1 goal on 22 shots. Boston College with a 4-1 victory over Merrimack. Minnesota Duluth. Who do we have on Minnesota Duluth? Jack Smith, I think, is on Minnesota Duluth, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't look like he got any points. Jack Smith, he got an assist. So Jack Smith with 1 point for Minnesota Duluth. They beat St. Cloud State 5-2. So we'll do a little bit of, I don't know if you guys enjoy the prospect talk, but give me a thumbs up if you like the prospect talk. If you don't, give me a thumbs down, I guess. Michigan lost 7-4 to Notre Dame. What did Michael Hage do tonight? Michael Hage, looks like he's got points there. Michael Hage with 0 goals and 2 assists in a 7-4 loss. Michigan is kind of struggling a little bit this year. Michael Hage is playing a first-line centerman role with the team right now, and he's playing quite well. That is, what are his point totals for the season now? Is this going to tell me? Looks like they had him on the second line tonight. Second line center. I can't get his totals for this year. I will get them in a second. Who else played tonight? Did our friend Sam Harris play? Did Denver play tonight? Where did I miss them? Denver with a 6-2 win over Miami. And Sam Harris had a goal. 1 goal, 0 assists. So that's those are the NCAA. Those are the NCAA prospects, guys, for tonight. So again, another good aspect and fun part about being a Canadiens fan is you can go watch those prospects. It's kind of a fun part about being in a rebuild. So Michael Hage had some points tonight. Sam Harris had a goal. Jacob Fowler rebounded from a tough loss last night where he gave up 5. I don't think he's given up more than 3 goals in a game this year. And then last night he gave up 5 and took the loss. So so a good a good night for the prospects tonight. Andre Vézina says, I believe Meilleure will be on the team before the end of the season. Injuries, trade. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Meilleure will be on the team this year. It appears that he is either struggling in Laval, but more likely I think he is probably working on certain aspects of his game. I think they've sent him down with a mission, with a task, or and they be in communication with the coaching staff in Laval to have him work on something. And if that's the case, then my sense is they'll probably want him to stay down there. I also think that the Canadiens are very conscious of not messing around with the Laval Rocket. Giving them an opportunity to have a good playoff run and likely make the playoffs. So I don't think they'll. I think they're. We saw it with Laine and Savard going down, right? Rather than bring somebody up, rather than bring Joshua Roy or Jared Davidson or Luca Kandata, rather than bring one of those guys up to the Canadiens for those 3 or 4 games when Laine was out with the flu. They chose to bring Pizzetta in because one, they didn't want to mess with their own lines, but they also didn't want to mess with Laval in any real way. So I don't envision them bringing up Meilleure now between now and the end of the season. There was a talk about adding a shot clock in the OT. Yeah, I don't know if it's any real serious talk, Pila White, Patrick. I don't think that's a serious conversation. Yet, I mean, it may get there. I think right now it's just kind of people throwing it around. I don't think it's anything that's been discussed at the Board of Governors meeting or there's been any real thought about that. But we'll see. They said the same thing about Evans. I don't know what you mean by that, Andre. What did they say about Evans? The same thing as what? Are you comparing Meilleure and Evans? I'm not sure. They allowed too many. Again, Greg, they played a very good team tonight. They played a fantastic team, right? They played a team that is, near the top of the standings in the Western Conference. They played a team that is on a 6-game winning streak. They played a team that had the night off last night, and so So I don't know that it's fair, again, to judge the Canadiens by the number of shots they allowed tonight. They allowed 31 shots in regulation. That's not a huge number, and certainly, as we talked about, half of those shots were in the first period. And, Dallas came out flying in the first period, and they really brought it to Montreal. And, we talked at the beginning of the show, if you were here, about weathering the storm. And that's a winning habit that the Canadiens have picked up. If you weren't here at the beginning of the show, I invite you to go back and listen to it after the show's over. Sometimes that happens, right? The Canadiens talk all the time. We talk all the time here about, you have to play the game that's in front of you. And tonight, the game that was in front of them was a really friggin' good hockey team. And so, by limiting the damage from the particularly in the first period from what Dallas was bringing to them, I thought they did quite well. And they were able to the shots were typically one at a time. They weren't getting 2, 3, 4 shot opportunities at a time. They weren't getting prolonged. They were getting prolonged pressure in the offensive zone. The Canadiens were doing a good job of their offensive zone coverage of letting them get a shot and then getting it out, as opposed to a shot and then they get another shot and that wasn't really happening. So again, I don't really have any issue with the number of shots they gave up tonight. I don't think in general. I don't think that's a good way to judge a team's performance. Obviously, if you give up 50 shots, there's obviously a problem. But again, for the most part, shots on goal is not a great way, in my opinion. You'd much rather look at things like high danger scoring chances or, things like that. Like, so here's our scoreboard. So you'll see here that we've got, in addition to shots, we also look at high danger scoring chances. So tonight, the high danger scoring chances were just 9-7, actually in favor of, actually that number is incorrect. It should actually be 15-10. So again, the Canadiens gave up 50 in high danger scoring chances. That's probably a little bit high. But again, let's go back and check and make sure I have that right. So we go here, so the high danger scoring chances tonight in all situations was 19-11 in favor of Dallas. But again, that would be 16-10. In the first three periods. Expected goals were 3.3 to 2.4. So again, I'm not real worried about the number of shots that the team gave up tonight. So it's fair if you are, but again, I don't know that that's a great way of judging the situation. Bonne nuit, Claude. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Did Michael Hage play? Yes, he did. Michael Hage played. What did we say? He had 0 goals and 2 assists, I believe. Michigan lost 7-4 to Notre Dame, and Hage played. And I asked for a thumbs up earlier. What did I ask for it about? I can't remember what I asked about. Oh, if you like the prospect talk, I think that's what it was. He is working on his defensive game. I think that's right. I think that's probably what Mayu was doing down there. I mean, we saw Arbor Jacki get sent down last year with a specific task, a specific thing to work on. It's not uncommon. So, and again, we saw it with, at the NHL level, we saw it with Cole Caulfield, right? Everyone was really worried. Cole Caulfield's not scoring goals the way he usually does. What's going on? And, what it was is he was working on other aspects of his game. He was working on, his defense. He was working on his skating. He was working on other aspects of his game. And now that he's worked on those things and he's improved those things, he's now brought it all back together and he's reincorporated his scoring. And now, we're seeing a guy who's on pace to score 45 or 46 goals. So, again, I don't think it's panic time on Logan Mailloux. So, let's just, chill out a little bit. Evans was in the HL for 4 years. He was never mentioned as a future player of the Habs. Yeah, again, he was a 7th-round draft pick, right, Andre? He was not high on the radar for the Canadiens. The 7th-round draft picks don't typically find their way in the NHL. And when they do, they don't typically have the kind of impact that Jake Evans has had over the last few years, and especially, this year, right? So you're talking about Meilleure. You're comparing him to Meilleure. Well, again, I'm not saying that there's no chance that he makes it. I just don't think that he's going to be what he's shown me so far is not. I mean, Philip Major is not going to be a bottom six player. He doesn't have the traits and the skills and the characteristics of a Jake Evans. So that's not going to happen, right? There's not going to be a scenario where Philip Major, we're going to put him, we're going to put him on our fourth line. He doesn't. This is not his game. I mean, could he develop that game? Maybe. I don't see it. But he doesn't play that style of game. It was, Jake Evans wasn't a guy who, same with Sean Farrell, same with, these are offensively talented guys. And if they're going to make the league, it's going to be as offensive producers. It's not going to be in a fourth line role player type. That's just not the way they're going to make it to the league. Roland Valiquette, they played 2 men short last night, flew back home to face a team that practiced in Montreal Friday. Then they went out and played Dallas to a draw. That was impressive. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a great way of looking at the game, Roland. I think that's we got a fight here. Tanner Jeannot and Lomberg. Lomberg's going to get killed here. Lomberg and Tanner Jeannot has his right hand loose, and Lomberg just fell on the ground. Anyways, yeah, I agree with you, Roland. Like I said earlier, we talked about it earlier, and if you haven't, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show, you can go back and listen to it later. We talked about weathering the storm, right? Dallas came out on fire. All of these things you indicated. They had a day off in Montreal yesterday, and meanwhile Montreal had to play an overtime game. They got home late. They all of the cards were stacked against them a little bit, and they were able to weather that storm and then take advantage of their opportunities once the Dallas onslaught was over. So I agree. It's a great analysis of the game, Roland. Welcome. I think you're new here. I haven't seen you here before. Merci beaucoup. Bienvenue. Si vous voulez parler en français, tu peux me demander les questions en français. On parle aussi en anglais et français ici. Alors, welcome to the show. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do so. Same with everybody else. If you're watching live or in a replay, then certainly hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We are trying to grow the Recliner Sports family. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers, but we're just trying to get as big a following as we can. We're trying to give you guys a place where you can come and have civil, intelligent talk about hockey and not sort of have to deal with the, my team's awesome, your team sucks kind of stuff, the trolls, the toxic stuff. That you get on a lot of the other platforms. So we're trying to grow that here, and if that interests you, then we certainly invite you to join our family by subscribing and give us a thumbs up. That's great too. We're trying to get to 50 thumbs up. It doesn't look very good. We're only at 18. We've got about 15 minutes left in the show. Probably won't go much longer than that, but we would like to get to 50 thumbs up. We did the other night, but yeah. Bonsoir, the Duke. How are you? Welcome to the show. Farrell won't make it. Honestly, I don't think any of those guys will make it, Andre. And again, it's not about being a late bloomer as much as it is that, the prospects that are coming up. Again, I'm not saying they don't have a chance to make it, but I just don't see where, a Farrell and a Major and a Riley Kidney will fit into the grand scheme of things on a team that has Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky pretty well cemented in. They have, Kirby Doc. They have Patrick Laine. They have, they have Newhook. They have Kapanen. They have Hage. They have Demidov. They have all of these guys, all of whom can play, in that top six. Now, some of those guys may end up playing on the third line. That's for sure. But again, those three guys are pretty one-dimensional offensive producers who just, I don't see them having the skills and the talent to, take a job away from, let's say Kirby Doc, or let's say Ivan Demidov, or let's say Michael Hage, or let's say, any of those guys, right? So I'm not saying it's not possible. They just haven't shown me that yet, right? Meanwhile, a guy like Owen Beck has shown me that he probably is going to be, or has the opportunity to be, a pretty good fourth line player in the NHL. He's shown that to me. Florian Jacki has shown that he might have the talent to be, a fourth line player in the NHL. Luke Tuck has shown that he might be the kind of guy who can do those kind of roles. If you were telling me that Luke Tuck had to be a top six player to make the team, I would say that there's no chance. But he has the ability to play, in that bottom six. So precisely, RDP, precisely. I agree, but they are not AHL yet. They are in college. Yes, you're right. You're right. You're talking about Michael Hage. Michael Hage is in college, and there's no guarantee that he's going to make it. But again, it's not like there's 4 or 5 people. There's like 8 or 9 guys who are right now ahead of those guys in the grand scheme of things, right? So Michael Hage is in college, and so we're trying to speculate and to predict and prospect what he will become. But we're also prospecting what Philip Majar and what Sean Farrell and Riley Kidney will become, and realistically what they're showing us and what we would project or predict from them is not a top 6 player in the NHL. Certainly not on a team that's going to have the talent that the Montreal Canadiens looks like they're going to have. Thank you, Duke. I appreciate it. You're a huge Habs fan, and it seems like a great community. Well, I do agree, and we're pretty new at this, Duke. But you're more than welcome to be here, and come on by. We go live with our show, Habs After Dark, every night after the Canadiens game. Whenever the Canadiens play, we go live about 15 minutes after the game. I am hopefully going to be putting together a daytime show once a week kind of thing called Habs Therapy Day, and we'll start doing that as well. Luke Tuck will make it. I don't know if Luke Tuck will make it. He might. I think he'll get an opportunity to make it. I think he and Jack Guy will both get an opportunity to make it. I don't know if both of them can make it. To me, in a perfect world, the fourth line for me down the road, like for the next 3 or 4 years, the fourth line is Owen Beck, Jake Evans, and maybe Emil Heineman, but maybe Luke Tuck, maybe Florian Jacki, one of those guys. Those, to me, if Jake Evans and Owen Beck are anchoring your fourth line, I think you've got a pretty good team. I think you've got a pretty good team if those are your anchors on your fourth line. And like I said, you can add Emil Heineman. Emil Heineman might be a third liner, but who knows, right? But again, if those 3 guys are your fourth line, again, there's no guarantee with Owen Beck, but again, what he's showing us in Laval would seem to indicate that he's going to be able to do that. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. I know that people disagree with me. People seem to think that Jake Evans is going to be a third liner. I don't think that Jake Evans is good value as a third liner. Right? Jake Evans with his numbers and the way he plays, he's a fantastic fourth liner. But the way he plays, he's a good third liner. I won't say average, but good to average third liner, right? What makes Jake Evans so great is that he's doing all the things he's doing in a role on the team that you don't expect that from. So that makes him special. Same with Emil Heineman right now, right? If Emil Heineman is playing on the second line, 10 goals is nice, especially from a rookie, but 10 goals from a fourth line position is even more special, right? So if you're counting on Emil Heineman to be on your top 6 on this team, he's probably not a guy who's in your plans down the road, right? He's probably not a guy who's going to stick around once Demidov comes along, or once Michael Hage comes along, or once he's going to be behind even Newhook and guys like that on the depth chart. But if he's able to perform that way on the fourth line and bring the defensive side of the game that you want to see from your fourth liner, then that's pretty special stuff. It's pretty special stuff. So thank you, Andre. I think it's a good community. We're growing it. You're part of it, and I am happy to have you here. With Alex, I wish he'd look before he shoots, but besides that, very much underrated, well-rounded, and solid PK guy. Alex Newhook? Alex, who are we talking about? Alex who, RDP? I really think Jake is gone. Jake is 28, has a young family, and he can hit the jackpot and win. Well, I don't know what you mean by jackpot. I don't think that Jake Evans is worth more than $4 million. I think, his numbers are being blown out of proportion right now. I mean, look at the kind of numbers that, similar players to him have signed for. Is it Adam Lowry in Winnipeg, third line center, whatever. Now his contract is, 3 or 4 years old now, but, 3.25 million. So again, I think there's going to be a number of things at play with Jake Evans. There's going to be, even Ridley Gregg, right? Like everyone talking about Ridley Gregg as a comparable. Ridley Gregg is he's in his RFA years, not his UFA years. His numbers are similar to Jake Evans right now, but Ridley Gregg is a first round draft pick. Comparing Ridley Gregg, at 22 years old to Jake Evans is not really a great comparison. So, I think that the Canadiens can probably get Jake Evans for less than 4 years if they're willing to, to give him a 4 or 5 year contract, which I think they should probably do. If they get him for 4 years or even 5 years at 3.5, I think I'm happy with that. I think I'm happy. I don't think he's going to get 4.5. He's not going to get 4.5, Andre. And if he does, good for him. The other part of this that you're probably missing out on is that I think Jake Evans wants to stay in Montreal, right? As I said earlier, Jake Evans is a 7th round draft pick. Montreal Canadiens showed him a ton of loyalty. They developed him, they brought him up, they gave him chances. A lot of teams would have sort of lost interest in Jake Evans, right? You got a 7th round guy who's been on your American League team for 3-4 years. That's a guy you typically move on from. Well, the Canadiens didn't, right? They kept him, they brought him up, they gave him an opportunity, and of course he's paid off, and he's certainly done his part. But again, I think he's interested in staying here. I think he's loyal to the organization. I think he's excited to be part of this rebuild, right? That we talk about, the family that's being built. We hear Marty St. Louis talk about it. We hear the players talk about how, they're creating, a chemistry and a family environment where, everybody, gets along on and off the ice. They're all on the same page. They're all committed to a common goal. They're all working, in the same direction, and there's a camaraderie there. And I think that there will be a certain part of Jake Evans, a significant part of Jake Evans, that wants to stick around and be a part of that. And does that mean he gives the team a bit of a hometown discount? Maybe it does, right? And I don't think it's naive to say that, because I do think there will be a part of him that wants to stick around and see this out, and be a part of this team, and his friends. Again, he's been around this team for a long time, right? He's been there since the beginning. Like, he's been there since the rebuild started, and so I think that there will be a part of him that wants to be a part of it. So, yeah. But an extra $500,000 a year is tough to convince the wife to give up. Yeah, I don't agree with that, Andre. I don't agree with that. Again, it's not an extra $500,000. It's actually probably more than that over the course of the entire contract. But again, I think there's benefits to him sticking around in Montreal, right? I think right now Jake Evans is in a spot where he knows where he is. He knows what he has. The team knows him and knows what they have, and there's a benefit to that, right? And so him staying in Montreal and being on the 4th line and being with a coach and a team and a management group that knows exactly what he's all about and how to get the best out of him, I think is to his benefit. Whereas if he goes to another team that brings him in with all kinds of expectations based on what he's done this year, and then maybe he doesn't live up to those expectations, things can go sideways in a real hurry, right? If his production drops off with Montreal, it won't be that big a deal because the Canadiens know that his value is not in his offensive production. The Canadiens know that his value is being a guy on the 4th line that you can put out on the ice in any scenario, and you can just feel comfortable and confident that he's going to do his job. Right, so him being in Montreal and having that sort of that connection to the coaching staff, that connection to the organization, where they know him and he knows them, I think is a big deal. Is a really big deal. And so, like I said, guys like Jake Evans. I mean, again, he could go to another team and they could put him on the third line, and he could just skyrocket and become take things to the next level. But the reality is that Jake Evans is probably playing the best hockey as far as offensive production is concerned that he'll ever play right now, and his value is not in his offensive production, even though that's what everybody's talking about right now. Well, it is a business, but it's not just a business, Andre. It's not just a business. So again, if you're sort of going to bring it all down, or distill it all down to it's a business, and that he's going to go to the team that offers him the most money, regardless of all of the other factors, I think you're completely wrong about that. And I mean, we've seen that time and time again, right? Anytime you go into a contract negotiation, the financial aspect of the negotiation is obviously a big part of it, but there are other trigger points that are relevant as well. There are other parts to the whether it's my family's comfortable here, right? My family's been here for a long time. I don't know Jake Evans' family situation, but maybe he has kids who go to school here, and he likes the city, he enjoys the city. Maybe he doesn't want to go to Minnesota. Maybe he doesn't want to go to wherever. And maybe those are the teams that are looking at him. But I think there are a number of factors to consider other than just the dollar and cents amount. And maybe the Canadiens are willing to offer him that dollars and cents. But to me, if he can come in between $3.5 and $4 million. And the Canadiens, again, his value to the team, to any team really, is as a fourth liner. And again, that's another issue, right? Like if he goes to another team where they expect him to be, a third line center or a second line center, the opportunity for him to disappoint is great, right? And that that's there's something to be said for playing well and enjoying yourself, instead of being somewhere where the fans are on you because they expect you to score 20 goals every year or 25 goals. And now all of a sudden you're halfway through the season and you've only got 4 or 5 goals, and every reporter is asking you what's going on after, there's value in that, right? And I do agree that the money is a big part of it, but there's certainly more to it than that. So, all right, guys, I think things are slowing down here a little bit now. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. The subscribe button is sort of right down here below the screen. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers. We're only about halfway there now, guys. We're slow and steady. But again, there's 15 of you here in the room. I think most of you are probably subscribed if you're in here right now. But if you're watching in a replay, I know there's a lot of people that watch the show in a replay. Certainly, if you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button, join the community. We're trying to build a place where you guys can all come and have civil conversations about hockey. Intelligent conversations about hockey, right? We're not just being fanboys here. We're not just sort of, blowing the horn for our team and how great our team is and how crappy everybody else is. That's not what we do here. We try and have some smart, intelligent conversations about the game, about the players, about the teams, and all of that good stuff. So if that's something that you're interested in, then I certainly invite you to join our community. The first step is to hit the subscribe button. So like I said, if you're here watching live, great. That's awesome. We love you. We're having a great time. The more the merrier. But if you are watching in a replay, we understand that as well. Not everybody can stay up until midnight after a game to watch a YouTube show. So if you are watching this after the fact, then welcome as well. If you want to comment, you can provide a comment in the comment section. I'm certainly willing to address it in the next show, or even to respond to it in the comment section in writing to you as well. So. So that's pretty much what we're talking about here. This is Recliner Sports. The show is Habs After Dark. My name is Devin, like it says on the screen. And we love having you. We're happy that you're here. Andre, if you are Jake's agent, he knows there is prospects coming up. I do not believe Habs will offer him more than 3.5. Yeah, I don't agree with that, Andre. I mean, again, you're entitled to your opinion on that. I don't know how high the Canadiens will go. And again, I think you're right. He does know that there's prospects coming up, but I also think that he knows, and I think that the sell job to him will be that, we want you to be on our fourth line. You're a fourth liner on our team, and we think that you can be great in that role, and we want you to be there. We want you to be one of the veterans on this team. We want you to be one of the guys who carries this team forward, right? Like Gallagher is probably not going to be around much longer. Anderson probably not going to be around much longer. Armia's probably not going to be around much longer. Dvorak's not going to be around much longer. So the sell job will be, you're going to be one of the veterans on this team, and we want you to be here, and we think you can play a pretty impactful and prominent role on this team. Thank you, EnterTap. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the show, and it was great to see you as always. And I think you and I will probably be on the air at some point with Coach Frenchie next week as well. I think is he doing a show tomorrow night? I haven't heard whether he's invited us or asked us to be on the show with him tomorrow night. I'm not sure. So I don't agree. I think 4. I think I would go 4. I would even consider going 5 years EnterTap, but it's all the same to me. RDP. It is 123. It is 12:52 for me, RDP. So it is time for bed. The Devils are high on him. That's fine. The Devils can be high on him, but again, if the Devils come out and offer him $5 million, then you got to let him go. If Jake Evans wants $5 million and the Devils are willing to offer it, or even 4.5, then I think you got to let him go. And I think that Kent Hughes will demonstrate that he's not going to fall in love with any players. But I think that there are a number of other factors that are going to play a role, Andre. It's not going to be just about the money. And if you think that, then I think that you're not really paying attention to what's going on with this team. You're not listening to Jake Evans, right? Jake Evans gives interviews all the time, right? He talks after practice. He talks after games. You can go on YouTube and you can find all kinds of interviews with Jake Evans where he talks about how much he enjoys this team. You can see the way he interacts with his teammates. You can see all of that stuff. So there's going to be a lot there. Now, if like you say, if Montreal allows him to get to free agency, like if he doesn't sign before he can become a free agent in the summer, and and New Jersey rolls up the Brinks truck on his front lawn and dumps $5 million a year on his front lawn, then yeah, that might be too much for him to turn down. But again, I think that if Montreal comes to him before that and says, we'll give you $3.75 million over 4 years. And we expect you to be our fourth line centerman for the next 4 or 5 years, then I think that's something that he's going to give an awful lot of thought to, right? Because like I said, I do think he likes it here. I do think he wants to be a part of this rebuild. I do think he wants to see this rebuild play out, and I do think he wants to be a part of this organization. And I do think that he feels loyal to the organization and feels that they've been loyal to him. Because I don't think that Jake Evans would have made it in a lot of other organizations. In fact, it's kind of surprising to me that he made it in the Canadiens organization, because they don't really have a great track record of bringing up guys like Jake Evans. So, well, that's not what they all say, Andre. So again, we can keep going back and forth about this, but I think we've kind of wore this one out a little bit. I think we've gotten to the point where we've both probably let our own opinions be known pretty clearly. But again, I think you're being pretty pessimistic, and you're being pretty I don't know, negative's the right word, about the degree to which players look at other things other than just the dollars and cents, right? I think that you're underestimating and downplaying incorrectly the degree to which some players in some scenarios look at more than just the money. And I think that will be that will be the case with Jake Evans. Whether that actually carries the day when it comes down to it, I don't really know. I can't really say for sure. Again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I have no clue. Like, I'm not in the office when these guys are talking, but that's just the sense I get from listening to the people who are more so on the inside. It's the sense I get from listening to Jake Evans. It's the sense I get when I hear Kent Hughes talk about Jake Evans. It's the sense I get when I listen to Marty St. Louis talk about Jake Evans. So again, at the end of the day, neither of us really knows, and we shall see. But I do think that part of this rebuild in Montreal, and we talked about it last night, is is the idea, of any rebuild really should be, the idea of making your team or your city a destination, a place that other players want to come to, or players want to stay, right? And for some teams that's easy, and for some reason, for some teams it's it might be it's Florida, so we got palm trees and we got it's 85 degrees every day, there's no taxes, that's why you should come here and play, right? For other teams like Montreal, it might be, well, we're the most storied organization in the history of the league. We tend to do things right. We've got the best arena to play in. The fans are we're sold out every night. If you want to play hockey in the center of the hockey world, then you'll want to come here. But then beyond that, the atmosphere that the Canadiens have created through this rebuild, with the way that they're coached, the way that they're coaching, the way that they're building the team, the way that they're doing all of that other stuff, to create an atmosphere where players enjoy themselves. They have a fun time going to work. They like the people they work with. They like their coach. They're not playing for John Tortorella, who is gonna, that you're at risk of getting screamed and yelled at, on a regular basis. Your coach is, and you enjoy where you're at. So again, that is one of the things that I think one of the underrated aspects of this rebuild is the way the Canadiens have turned this organization into a destination, a place where players want to play, despite being in Canada, despite having a disadvantageous tax situation, despite all of the things that are against them a little bit. They've done other things to try and compensate for that. Even things like having the best facilities, right? The best practice facility, the best dressing room, the best gym, the best facilities as far as they've got a kitchen with a chef and there's food and there all this kind of stuff. Like not every team does that. I mean not every team does it as well as the Canadiens, and so these are all factors that come into play. So I do think that there's quite a lot. I think there's quite a lot that plays into this, and we'll see. We'll see. It should be interesting. So, anyways, guys, I do appreciate all of you, especially Andre. We had a good chat there on the end of the show. Entertap, who else? RDP was here tonight. We had a bunch of guys who just popped in and out. The Duke is a new follower. He's popped by. Roland Valiquette, merci beaucoup. Billy D, here as usual. Claude Duchal, Greg's Music Corner. Patrick LeWhite was in here as well. Who else we got? Here? Mike Leochi was here earlier. Nicolas Bouchard, Robert Legault, Larry LaValle, all the way from Arizona. Thank you. El Hacker. El Hacker was here. Thank you, El Hacker. Frank Iacono. Obviously, he is a regular. He's been in here quite a bit of late. Entertap, of course. And I think that's pretty. Tony Hutt. Tony Hutt had a bit of a smart-ass comment right at the beginning, and either he didn't stick around to hear my answer, or he didn't like what I had to say because he didn't stick around. But anyways, guys, if you're still in here, give us a thumbs up. We're trying to get that number up. We couldn't get to 50, but can we get to 20? We got 18 there now. Surely we can get to 20. So that's it for tonight, guys. Habs After Dark. We go live after every Montreal Canadiens game. We get on the air about 10 or 15 minutes after the game ends. We'd love to have you come on, pop by. It's a great time. We're trying to offer you guys a nice, safe, civil, intelligent place to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, to talk about hockey, what have you. We do enjoy having you here. It's a really great time. I love doing the show. It's been a lot of fun, especially lately as things start to build up. We do want to try and get to 500 subscribers. If you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. Especially if you are watching in a replay. The analytics from YouTube tell me that only about 40% of the people who watch the show actually are subscribed. It really is an easy thing to do. All you got to do is just hit that button. It's right here below the screen. It does help us. It does help us grow. Once I get to 500 subscribers, we can do some more fun things as far as memberships and all that kind of stuff. So please do so. Please hit that subscribe button. It helps me. It helps you. Helps grow our community. The bigger our community gets, the better conversations we can have, and the more fun we can have talking about our favorite sport and our favorite team or teams. It doesn't have to be the Canadiens. I'm happy to talk to you about your team if it's another team. So all that to say, if you have friends that you think would enjoy this as well, let them know, let them come by. So thank you very much for joining us. If you were here in the live, you were great. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate your support. If you're watching later on, if you're watching after the fact in a replay, then I love it too. Feel free to send your comments my way, whether you want me to answer in the comments themselves or whether you want me to address it on the following show. I love it. The more you give me to talk about, the better. I sit here and I kind of talk for 2 hours straight, which is not the easiest thing to do. But if you guys give me good topics and things to talk about, it makes it a lot easier. And also, if you think there's things that we can fix about the show, if there's things that we can do better, if there's things that you like, things you don't like, things like that, I certainly welcome the constructive criticism as well. So all that to say, thank you very much, gang. I really enjoyed it. We had a great time again as usual. Give us a thumbs up if you're still here watching, and we will see you in the next one. It was the Canadiens lost 2-1 to the Dallas Stars tonight in a shootout. A pretty good performance by the team despite the loss. I think it's nothing to be concerned about. It's nothing to be upset about. The Canadiens played very well, but they ran into a very good team. They held them down for most of the game, but unfortunately they weren't able to pull out a victory in the end. So it's 2-1 for Dallas. The Canadiens are back on the ice on Tuesday night against Utah, so they'll get back on a plane here now and fly halfway across the country. They just got back from Colorado, and now they're going all the way back to Utah. So it's a bit of again, another sign that they're doing really well right now is they're doing all of this winning despite some pretty rigorous travel demands, and so they head back to Utah. They play in Utah, then they play in Dallas, and then they have back-to-back at home against Toronto and the Rangers on the weekend. So that's it for tonight. Thank you very much again. As usual, you guys have been awesome. I do appreciate everything. I do appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time. Peace.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, Doc to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.